and today we're going to be interviewing the Labour Parliamentary candidate for Hereford, Philippa Roberts.
We hope you enjoy it and we hope that you find it interesting. In a brief sentence, could you just explain what a parliamentary candidate is, please?
Basically, it's somebody who's standing and wanting to be an MP for the area.
Okay, and why did you want to become a parliamentary candidate?
Actually, it was mainly about local issues. So I've been involved in the Labour Party around here for a couple of years, and I got really cross about the ESG and the way the consultation was going and the fact that council didn't seem to be listening to anybody. And I thought there was an opportunity to be a parliamentary candidate, and I thought, yeah, I could, make people listen to what I've got to say even more if I stand for something like this.
Yeah.
That and the expenses scandal and the things that have been going on recently.
Okay. What's the ESG?
Oh, the Edgar Street Grid, so the big regeneration project in Hereford.
Oh, yeah. What are yours and Labour's top 3 policies? What do you think the most important things are?
The 3 things that I'm campaigning on here at the moment, I suppose the first thing is about sustainability. So I'm an environmentalist, I'm a greenie, and for me sustainability means making sure that the economic, the social and the environmental are considered in all the things that go on around here. So specifically I've been looking at the regeneration project on the ESG, housing and transport. So those would probably be my sort of top 3 things.
Yeah.
If they're going to spend lots of money on regeneration, it's got to be green, it's got to work for the people, it's got to make sense financially. The transport's about public transport, so I think we need a lot more investment in public transport than we've got, and they keep pulling the money for the buses at the moment. And housing's 5,000 people on the housing list, as you probably know.
Yeah. What services and activities do you think young people really need or want within Hereford?
I think if you go onto Facebook, I think the most popular group at the moment is people wanting an ice rink, actually. And I hear a lot of people saying that. Cinema, more places to go out, music venue. Music venue would be really popular because there's nowhere really where you can listen to live music, or if you're in a band, you can actually play.
What do you think of the current housing situation for young people in Hereford?
I'd imagine it's fairly dreadful, actually.
Yeah, there are a lot on the waiting list for each of the foyers within the county.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like I say, there's something like nearly 5,000 people on the county waiting list for housing at the moment. And the rate the council are building houses at, it would take 28 years to clear the list because they build so few houses every year. And actually, look, this is one of the. Should I hold up my piece of paper? This is a really, really interesting fact that I found out last night. And it says here what the average earnings are in the county, and then in the West Midlands and in the country. But the interesting thing, and I'm probably wobbling this around too much, aren't I? The interesting thing is it tells you that in Herefordshire, the average house price is over 8 times the average earnings, which means if you saved and didn't spend a penny of everything you earned, it would take you over 8 years to save enough to be able to buy a house in the county. Whereas the average for the West Midlands is less than 6, and for the country it's 6. Yeah. So not only do we earn less than other places, but our houses are still more expensive. Yeah. And that's purely down to the fact that we don't build enough houses in the county. There's more people than there are houses, which is, I think, quite interesting.
I'm Hugo Sugg, I'm another Media Works representative. The majority of my friends aren't very interested in politics or voting. How do you intend to engage them?
I think it's a real problem, actually, amongst the population in general, that people seem to think that it doesn't matter, that politics doesn't matter, that it doesn't affect them. I go around knocking on doors quite a lot at the moment, and probably about 1/3 of the people I speak to say they don't vote because it doesn't affect them, which I just think is absolutely crazy, because who's in government affects just about everything. Everything that happens in your life, actually. So I think part of engaging with everybody, but including young people, has got to be about explaining to people what an MP does, what a parliamentary candidate does, why it's important, but mainly making sure that you're accessible. So at the moment, I don't know if you wanted to go find the local MP and tell them about an issue like housing for young people, I don't know how you go about it. There isn't a shop in town where you can turn up and say, I want to leave a message, I want to talk to somebody, I want my MP to be doing this for me. And I think if MPs were made to be more accessible, which is obviously what I would be doing if I were elected, then it means that people can start to understand what it is that they're there for and what it is that they're doing. Because ultimately an MP is a public servant. They're there to represent the people who vote for them. And I think it's really important that you have that relationship, that you can get in touch with them.
Hereford has an ageing population. How will you encourage more young people to stay in the county?
Our ageing population graph, that came well prepared. I think it's really difficult, actually. When I finished sixth form, every single one of my friends left the area, and I grew up in Malvern, so every single one of us left the area within about 18 months, I think, of finishing school. And of all my friends, and that's probably like about 40 of us, and we were at about 3 different schools in the area, only 2 of us have come back. And I think that's a kind of shows how big an issue it is, partly because of the jobs. There aren't the range of jobs here in the range of industries, which is a really big issue. Lots of us went away to uni, and so one of the things the council's talking about doing at the moment is trying to develop a university centre within Hereford. So they're talking about building this around the Arts College at the moment, and it might be on the ESG area, so part of the regeneration. And the idea is that young people can still leave Hereford, but you'll get a whole load of other people's young people coming in to go to the university and then try and fill some of this gap a bit. The problem is, like, you know, I talked about with Lisa earlier, it's also about what to do. We need better leisure, we need better cultural stuff, there needs to be better places to go out, better bars, a cinema, other stuff for people to do, and then there'll be a reason for young people to stay around here. I think it's really important to have an ongoing conversation, because an MP is there to be an ambassador, you know, for the county, for the people who live in the county, to do the lobbying if we need more money from central government, to do that sort of lobbying, to do that sort of policy work, to tell people about what's going on and what the issues are on the ground. And it works both ways. If I was to be the MP, the only way I could do that is if there's people on the ground who are actually telling me what's going on.
What do you think about Gordon Brown going on a chat show?
I feel a bit sorry for Gordon, because he's one of those people that everybody complains about him, you know, not being very shiny or photogenic and being a bit grumpy and not very personable. And yet, when Tony Blair, who was very sort of slick and well turned out and a really, really fantastic speaker, when he was around, everybody complained about the fact that he was a really good speaker and he was too slick, and perhaps there wasn't the substance there, perhaps he wasn't sort of clever enough or thoughtful enough. And then we have Gordon, who really clearly doesn't spend a lot of time worrying about how he appears perhaps in the media in the same sort of way, and then people complain about him not looking good enough. So I feel really sorry for him, because for a long time he's kept his private life really, really private, and he said his kids would never go in the media, for example. There's never been pictures of his kids in the newspapers and things like that, and everybody wants to know more, so he kind of goes on the chat show to open up and talk about these things, and then everybody goes, oh, well, he shouldn't be doing things like that because it's not serious for a Prime Minister. Sometimes I think you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Well, thank you very much for taking part in this interview.
My pleasure. Thank you for asking me.
And good luck in your campaign.
Thank you.